All right, let's talk Miami Hurricanes. We've talked about this Miami squad a lot this offseason. We actually had a video about a week ago talking about a really smart move Mario Cristobal did in terms of his overall strategy, team building, and the position he's put this roster in as we get closer to the 2025 regular season. And we've got an exciting update on that. It looks like the Hurricanes did an even better job than we first forecasted. We'll get into this latest report in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick, that is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, about a week and a half ago or so, we talked about Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes, and that what they've done over the past few years is that they've done a really nice job in terms of dominating and getting a lot of quality recruits in SEC country, right? Going out and controlling the entire Southeast, making a big play for it. We've seen in years prior to the 2022 season and really that time and before, where they do their thing in South Florida, but then they try and go national, right? They kind of take that Notre Dame approach. And it had mixed results, obviously, over that time period, but we've seen this Hurricanes team kind of switch up their pivot. They still work in South Florida. They do a great job in the SEC now as well, making sure they get quality recruits in the area that is the most dominant part of the entire country in terms of recruiting talent, the Southeast. I think that's pretty clear. In fact, let's go ahead and pull up our graph that we brought up last time to kind of highlight what we were talking about. So in 2023, you can see, just to reiterate, the percent of their class from SEC states was about 75%. And by 2026 and 2025 is about this level too, is about 85%. That's a significant bump over those few years, doing a great job getting their kids from SEC country. But we got a comment on that video I think is very interesting. This was the commenter's, his name, his account, 1 milligram of epinephrine 120. And he brought up a great point. He says, what about removing South Florida recruits from that graph? Because South Florida is part of Florida, which is an SEC state. He says, that's fair. Let's look at it then. Let's take a look at what Cristobal has done. Percent of the class from SEC states removing South Florida. And so you can look at here, starting in 2023, what percent of the class that were from SEC states, not counting South Florida, you can see it was about 30% in 2023, got up to 40-ish percent, a little bit more in 2024, bumped up to 50% in 2025. And so far in 2026, it's all the way up to around 70%, right? So this is an even more drastic move by Mario Cristobal and his recruiting staff. And this is critically important. We hear a lot of people about how good certain areas of the country are. California, Big Ten's got a lot of guys when you look at Michigan and Pennsylvania and the state of Ohio, of course. But it is as true as it 50 years ago, as it was 40 years ago, as it was 5 years ago, as it is today. The best recruiting talent in the country, championship talent, is still in the SEC. I know a lot of people that aren't part of the SEC hate the pro SEC stuff all the time. The reality is the best recruits, the best high school kids come from that area. And it's a reason why the vast majority of the time, the national championship is won by an SEC school. The fact that Michigan and Ohio State have won it back-to-back years is an anomaly. Usually, as we've seen over the past 20 years, it's been Georgia, it's been Alabama, it's been Florida, sprinkling in LSU or something like that. SEC kids are the best recruits in college football. We've seen that in terms of winning games, winning national championships, breeding NFL talent. That's what we've seen in the Southeastern Conference. And Mario Cristobal has done a great job going outside of South Florida and winning these quality kids in SEC country. It's been an underrated part of his game. But as we showed last week and rehashed with that graph, and now with this latest graph in front of you, it's clear that he's done a phenomenal job for Miami getting the best talent in football. This is a way to elevate the talent level across Miami. We've seen what good a job they've done in recruiting, and having SEC talent mixed with the national brand in Miami, plus winning South Florida, doing some good transfers as well. There's no reason to think that Mario Cristobal can't push this team on talent alone. Now, look, they still have to coach, they still have to execute. We all understand that. But on talent alone, there's no reason to think that this isn't a national championship, not a playoff contending team, but a national championship contending team in Coral Gables. All right, Miles, I know you've got a few thoughts on this, but first, Miami fans, in the comment section below, as we get closer to the regular season, we like taking a step back and looking at the past. So we're talking a lot about quarterbacks this week on this channel. So give us your favorite quarterback in terms of Miami Hurricanes history. There's been a lot of really good ones. I mean, going back to the 80s and certainly even in the 20, 30, 40 years since. I mean, there's guys who are great college guys that didn't really do well in the NFL. There's been some good guys and not so good in college that go on and do a good job in the NFL, a little bit of both. Who is your greatest, in your opinion, Miami Hurricanes quarterback in team history? Let us know in the comment section below. But Miles, over to you now. What are your thoughts on this latest news out of Miami?
Yeah, Nick, I think what Miami has done here, I think it just shows This is that, like you said, this is what's setting them up to get to the next level of being national championship contenders. Because when you think of national championship contenders, you think of some of the best teams in college football, and you think of the best recruiting teams in college football. And we look 2025, who are the best teams recruiting in college football? You got Texas, Georgia, Oregon, Alabama. Three guys that are in the SEC and one really strong team in Oregon. Those are the top four schools. If we look at where those guys get the recruits from, some people will be like, well, no, duh. But I think there is some value in looking at this. Obviously, Georgia, 20 guys out of the state of Georgia, SEC territory. But when you go down the list, they've got two guys out of Florida, a guy out of Tennessee. So they dominate the SEC territory. It's where a majority of the recruits come from. Georgia, a very good football team. Like you said, historically, that's a team been really impressive. Back-to-back college football national champions, doing really good stuff. So can't deny Georgia getting a vast majority of their players out of SEC territory did really well for them. Let's look at a more recent uptick team, a team in the Texas Longhorns. Obviously, Texas is SEC country. Texas recruits SEC country, but they do something surprising as well. 15 of their guys in 2025 out of the state of Texas. That's kind of obvious. But when you look at the next three highest schools, you've got Georgia, Florida, Alabama. Those are the guys that's what they're getting. They got four guys out of Florida, or four guys out of Georgia, three guys out of Florida, one guy out of Alabama. So good again, the best teams dominating SEC territory. Let's look at Oregon. Oregon is a little bit different, a West Coast team, powerhouse. They got their most of their guys of this 2025 class. When there's 16 players, five of them out of California because they're a West Coast team. It's obvious. But you look at the next guys, the next most recruits, you've got Texas, Florida, Alabama. So even Oregon, the same thing. They're dipping into the SEC territory. Again, the best teams in all of college football doing that. And then finally, Alabama. This is a team that's traditionally known to be an SEC powerhouse in recruiting. And I want to just throw this out there as the anomaly. Sometimes when teams regress from what they did best is when the teams kind of falter a little bit. Alabama isn't on the top of their game right now. I think they're trending towards being really, really good once again, and they have switched and made a correction on this, especially in the 2026 class. But you look at 2025, seven guys out of the state of California for Alabama. You'd think majority of them would be out of Alabama. Not the case there for the Crimson Tide. But again, when you look at the next layers of it, again, SEC territory, you got Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi. So a team that again shows they went West Coast, didn't work out too well for them. I think now they're trending back towards the SEC guys. They've made a more concerted effort. Kalen DeBoer's come out and made comments at that. And you look at what they're doing right now in 2026, already out of their 7 commits, 5 of them, Georgia, Alabama, SEC territory. They're going back to their roots, going back to when Alabama was good, win a national championship. So long and short of this is the best teams in college football are doing what Miami is doing. They're getting a majority of their guys out of the SEC. And especially when you take out South Florida, because South Florida is like kind of like Georgia. It's like, yeah, of course they're going to have a lot of guys out of South Florida. But when you're getting a majority of the rest of your guys out of the SEC territory, that's when good things happen. And I think good things are going to happen with the Miami Hurricanes because of it.
And just one final point to end on, and we've seen this with some commentary on our prior video on this topic, is that we're not trying to sit here and just throw and I get it. People are tired of hearing about SEC dominance and the arrogance of people in the SEC. I understand that completely. But the reality is if you're trying to win a championship, you just have to take away the biases and the idiocy and the commentary from people who talk too much. Put that aside and say, okay, what's best for winning? What puts us in the best position to win? And look, you can try and fight the tide, no pun intended, and try and keep going national and go on the West Coast or go to the Northeast all the time. You can try that. Or how about you just go where all the great talent already is, 400 miles away instead of 1,400 miles away. This is the easiest approach. It's the cost-effective approach, and it's the approach that gets you the best players. That's how you win. You do smart. You don't overthink yourself. I think prior regimes in Miami in the early part of the Cristobal era, he definitely overthought. I think a lot of prior coaches did as well. They're keeping it simple. They're going back to fundamentals and saying, let's go get the best players, the most cost-effective players. We're obviously crushing South Florida. We always do that. Let's stick to relatively local, regional, right? working our way at the Panhandle, Central Florida, North Florida, then of course doing some damage, Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, venturing into Texas as well. Let's win the SEC while we continue to dominate the South Florida region, while also making sure we keep an eye on for any potential national recruits. It's the logical approach. It's a smart approach. And that's exactly what the Miami Hurricanes are doing. And that's why over time, starting with the 2025 season, we saw a little bit last season. I think they were a little bit top heavy, though, with talent. But I think this season and certainly in the years to come, we're going to see a really talented Miami team that's balanced across the board.